the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week.
Hi, my name is Greg Winkler, and this is Business Story of the Week.
Fantastic. And that is Greg. And of course, I am your host, Joshua. And today's question is, why are young athletes dropping out of athletics, sports at an alarming rate? And what if better coaching could keep kids in sports and transform their lives? Well, that is precisely what Coach Greg Winkler does, and why he is a guest on us today. He is going to share his stories and his insight. Coach Greg Winkler currently teaches at Florida Southwestern Collegiate High School and coaches boys soccer, Charlotte High School in Punta, Georgia, Florida. He is a member of the Wisconsin Soccer Hall of Fame and United Soccer Coaches 2012 National Coach of the Year as well. Wow. He has published 2 coaching books and is working on his third. His passion is inspiring coaches to motivate players beyond the sidelines. Coach Greg, I am very, very excited to talk about what you do and your experience and basically your stories. Thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing?
Well, thank you very much, Josh, for having me. It's always great to talk about youth sports and what we can do to improve them.
Precisely. Well, before we get into the youth of today, we need to know what the youth of back then was like, particularly what did the young Greg Winkler think about youth sports? Did he always know? Did the young Greg Winkler always know he was going to be a coach, sports coach? What was the young George Winkler like?
Well, I'd have to say when I got into high school in 9th grade, I told my physical education teacher that I was going to go to school and come back and take his job because he had a few years to go till retirement, and
Whoa,
I said, I'm coming back and I'm going to take your job. When he left, I wasn't going to
that
remove
is.
him. But since I was a freshman in high school, I knew that I wanted to teach and be a coach.
Wow, that is very that well, that's quite cool. I mean, he did take his job after all, but of course, you had to wait for him to leave. Greg, it's very cool because, like I said, like we we asked a question earlier, like kids or young athletes are leaving sports. They're no longer pursuing it anymore. But for you, Greg, was it always soccer? Was it always football? Was it any other sports in general? Did you just love sports in general?
I think it was sports. When I was growing up, the really only opportunity we had to play was summer baseball. There wasn't. I was before all the. I was an athlete before all the select programs and club programs started, and really the only thing we had was a little travel league baseball. And then as I
Mhm.
was in college, I started, working with some people that were starting to start some youth programs. But my sports were football, American football, wrestling, track. Those are the things that I played all throughout high school, and those are the things I started coaching at a younger age. Soccer didn't come till I was in my late 30s. So it was always like middle school and high school football. Same with the
Right.
wrestling, and I was a head track coach for a couple of years out of high school. But soccer became my passion, and that's where
Wow.
I ended up focusing on for the rest of my career.
Wow. A true sportman through and through. One of the like just sports in general. Just you love it because why? Would you think you were attracted to sports in the first place, Greg?
I think I was a decent athlete, but I think what really propelled me to follow in that path was the influence that so many coaches had on me. And I still talk to
Mm.
my high school football coach who's long been retired. I still talk to my high school wrestling coach. My high school track coach passed away a few years ago, but we had conversations before that. So I think it's the relationships and those men, and now I see many women, the relationships they build with their players, it transcends the game and goes on much longer than that. So I think that's what really drew me to that. I love the camaraderie of athletics and being around people that want to compete and pursue excellence. But at the same time, we're challenging them to be young men and women that are going to have a positive impact in their communities and their schools.
And it's of course transcends beyond sports, right? Like sports, it's great entertainment. People love watching it, but I feel like there's a way for sports to connect other people, to connect the athletes to the audience, to connect the audience to each other. It really is kind of a transcendent experience for a lot of people, and I understand that many of the things you teach, when it comes to coaching, when it comes to sports, you integrate mindfulness and performance into performance improvement. But Greg, talk to us a bit about the passion behind the sports that you have, or the passion that you have behind the sports rather, and why have you integrated mindfulness into it, and how do you feel like it helps athletes not just improve their performance, but also improve their performance beyond sports?
Well, I think I'm really big on character, and I think that
Hmm.
there's a saying that your athletes, your students, whatever, your athletes need to know how much you care before they really care about the game. So they don't care what I know on the field. They don't care about my coaching experiences. They want to know that I care about them. And I think by having that as a relationship with them and setting some character expectations, if I can teach them to be grateful, they're going to be better sportsmen on the field if they're grateful for the opportunity to play. If they're
Yeah.
grateful to that referee for
Hmm.
showing up to ref their game, they're not going to yell at him. They're going to play, right? And I think if they're grateful for their opponent, like win or lose, if I didn't have that opponent, we wouldn't be playing this game. I think that those are all things that are really difficult for high school boys, especially. I think the
Hmm.
relationship piece comes really easy with coaching girls because I've coached them as well. And you almost
Yeah.
have to have a relationship with your girls if
Hmm.
you want your team to be successful. And I think guys have, in the
It's
past,
interesting.
guys want to, they just, I met a coach the other day and he talked, I'm an old school football coach. I was old school. I, you know,
Hmm.
barked and yelled and made them,
Hmm.
punished them. And he's like, it wasn't until my later years
Hmm.
that I learned about this transformational stuff and the character piece. And he said,
Hmm.
boy, I really messed up. Like I waited
Hmm.
way too long to start doing that because I think, if your whole life is wins and losses and you lose more than you win, you're going to be miserable, but if you
Yes.
look at the gains the kids can
Yes.
make and you see them 2 years after high school or 2 years after college or 30 years
Hmm.
down the road when they got kids and families, and you still had an
Hmm.
impact on them. It had nothing to do with what kind of record you had that year. It was the bonds that you built along the way.
Hmm.
And I think that getting them to understand that's part of the
And
whole mindfulness thing is all these other things can come in
right.
and it makes you a calmer player, like kids that are like quick to blow up. I do a motivational Monday on YouTube, and last week I talked about what's in your cup.
Hmm.
So like a kid that's really frustrated and
Yes.
can't get rid of that.
Hmm.
When something bad happens in the game, that kid blows up because his cup just got spilled and what's inside of it
Yes.
is anger, and that's what comes out. So the
Yes.
more that we get them to understand that and kind of get a little grounded, then if your cup's filled with gratitude, you're just playing. The guy knocks you over, you get up and you keep playing. So those are the kind of messages I
That's it.
you know I want to teach these young men and women, and hopefully, that's been part of my success or my career.
I love it. I love it. I love it, Greg, because first off, it's quite interesting that you said that the relationship aspect comes easier for girls than it does for boys. because you always see on TV or in sports in general, you see camaraderie, you see sportsmanship, and it's always just it, it's quite a surprise you telling us that it's a bit of a challenge for boys, but you've managed this because it's not building records, like you said. It's not just about building records; it's about building character. How do you approach this when you say that? Okay, because this reminds me of course, one of the greatest coaches of all time, right? Greg Popovich of the San Antonio Spurs, where he says, basketball is just, a part of life. There are bigger things about basketball, and for someone to say that, who's had such massive success like he does, and one of the principles that he teaches all the time to his players are like, hey, we may have lost the championship, the biggest goal, but there are bigger things in life than other than basketball. Do you approach it as like the sports comes first, and then it supplements your life, or more like, hey, build your life, be grateful, have gratitude, have character in your life in general, and then you'll have more fun playing sports. Is
Yeah.
that vice versa? How does it approach that way?
I think that I see athletics or being part of a team as a way to
Mhm.
bring that stuff in. You talk about Popovich and you look at the success he's had, and when his players talk, what they say. And I'm a big Golden State Warrior fan. Well, Steve Kerr, the
Mhm.
coach of the Warriors, was a player for Pop, and then
Yes,
when he
of
took over
course.
the Warriors, that was his mentor coach. And Phil Jackson, was that? Yeah, he played for him too, and it was the same kind
Phil
of thing. It
Jackson.
was
Yeah.
it was it was all like it wasn't. They have to have those traits to be successful, And uh,
Mhm.
perfect example is Draymond Green when he loses control and how that affects the game, and that's a player that I'm sure they're working with him all the time. So those are the things we have to work on those kids when they're younger, because once that stuff gets
Right.
embedded, it's really tough because they always fall on they fall to the lowest level that they've had. But I totally agree. I think that success comes from building the personal things, the transformational things. They call them the soft skills of the sport. Um, the
Yes. Yes.
all that personal stuff, and that's where I think
Of
that's
course.
all about being mindful. Everything has an
Yes.
effect, and if we're aware of it and we can work on those things, we're going to have more success. And your channel is a business story, and that's one of the things that I try to get out and talk to clubs that are running a business model for a sports club,
Mhm.
and look at the
Mhm.
successful businesses out there. They have character values. They have 3 or 4 traits that when you go to Coca-Cola,
Mhm.
this is what they're doing. When you go to Disney, this is what they're doing. Like, you go to a local police department and look and see what they have for the words that go along with that local department, and a lot of people are putting those out there, because if I put out a thing that my team, one of our traits is joy. If you don't come to a game and see joy, then
Yes.
I'm not doing my job, right? Because I want that to be part of our programs. And you can look at those businesses
Precisely.
or the other those things and say, okay, when I go into that store, I know what they stand for. Do I see that from their employees?
Mhm.
Do I see that from
Yes.
your
Precisely.
team? Do I see that? Are the police really nice to everybody in town? If friendliness is one of their traits,
Mhm.
like, those are the kind of things that you want to represent, right? I shouldn't have to. I think Steve Kerr said once, like, if you don't come to my practice and see these 3 things that we focus on, then we're not doing the right thing. He's not teaching them the right way. So
Precisely.
I think those are important, like character traits,
I,
setting a standard of performance and behavior are really important.
I love that. I love that you also pointed out joy, because what's the point if you're not having fun, right? Especially sports,
Absolutely.
especially for youth athletes, right? Especially for youth athletes. You're young. You're building your career. You're building your again. You're building your character. If you're not having fun out there playing this sport, there's really no point in all of this. But the joy is it's a great aspect. It's a great trait and a great seed to have. Of course, you are called. the transformational coach, by the way, for our audience and listeners out there. You integrate, again, mindfulness and character building to improve performance in youth athletes and athletics in general, where you also teach coaches to these methods. And of course, you've encountered so many methods in your career, so much experience in your career, and you're trying to improve that in coaches and young athletes as well. Coach Greg, here's the thing. Here's my question. If coaching was like gardening, what would be the essential seeds that you need to plant? Like you talked about this, it has to be planted when they're younger. You have to teach them while they're younger. What would those essential seeds be that you need to plant earlier to build successful players, successful athletes, and teams?
Well, I talked to you about gratitude. I think that if
Mm-hmm.
one of the things you nourish that with is gratitude, your perspective
Mm-hmm.
changes when you go somewhere and you're thankful. You go to a
Mm-hmm.
restaurant and you're waiting in line for a really long time. If you're not grateful for the opportunity to be able to go to that restaurant and have the money to pay for that food that you're having there, like you're standing in line, you could be getting angry and then your whole experience is gone. So gratitude has
Yes,
to be a
yes, yes.
key to that development. There has to be a level of respect, discipline, all those character words, but respect means that I'm going to respect you and you're going to respect me. Like I'm not going to demand respect from my players.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, you know, I'm an old guy. They should respect me for that, but I got to earn their respect, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
don't earn their respect if I don't
Yes, of
respect
course,
them. And then another part is,
of course, of
trust. They
course.
have to be able to trust. They have to be able to trust you. Do you do what you say you're going to
Mm-hmm.
do? Do you back them up when there's a problem, when there's an issue? So I think trust is
Yes.
important. So many of those things,
Mm-hmm.
and they can all be tied in together. And um, but like you mentioned joy. You got to sprinkle joy in there, but you have to have joy as well as a coach. Like that's what I think a lot of coaches
That's it.
don't understand. Like it's a lot of work and it's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
hours and it's the pay is not great, but you have
Mm-hmm.
to love to do it, right? It's like why go home from practice miserable, because your team's not performing. If you're not having fun every minute that you're out there, then
Mm-hmm.
maybe you don't need to be out there anymore. Like the kids like pick up your vibe. If they know that you're having a
Right.
bad day, they can tell, right? So I think
Of
that
course.
that again, back to that, it's important. But that's my sprinkling, a little bit of
Absolutely. And of
gratitude.
course, a little bit joy, a little bit of gratitude, a little bit of trust, by the way. And I love that you pointed
Yep.
out respect too, because, so much more respect is like, especially with, like the elderly. I love that you said that because the elderly kind of expects that respect. Like you have, it's expected, it's demanded, so to speak, because just because they're older, just because of age. But I love how you pointed out, like you can't expect that respect if you don't give respect back first, right? So it's very very wonderful to point out there and to put out there, not just for sports, but life in general and respect in general. Of course, your book, Coach Greg, is The Transformational Coach, incorporating mindfulness for improved performance. And it is out there in Amazon. It is everywhere else in the world as well, or in the internet where you can find Coach Greg's books. And of course, Coach Greg, the YouTube channel is at Greg Winkler 10 for our audience and listeners, at Greg Winkler 10 if you want to see that video he was talking about, what's in your cup. It's up there right now. And of course, you just also released a new video 6 hours ago. And Coach Greg, where else can we find you? Where else can we connect with you?
I'm also currently on X at Greg Winkler 10. Uh, and that's and a Facebook page. I have a Coaching for Significance Facebook page that I just post my videos on there. But
Wow.
um, I think the YouTube channel is once a week. Every Monday we put out a little minute to 3 minute character trait thing, and sometimes it's player
Mm-hmm.
focused. A lot of times it's coach or personal focus. So they can watch that
Mm-hmm.
and go back and watch a bunch of other ones.
I mean, for sure. The description on the YouTube channel literally says posting positive messages and a motivational Monday message each week. And of course, our audience and listeners, I invite them all to go check that out. Go check out Coach Greg Winkler's YouTube. Go get a copy, go grab a copy of his book, The Transformational Coach. And, I'm quite honored. I'm truly, truly happy to have you on here. The Transformational Coach himself, Greg Winkler. Coach Greg, thank you so much for being on the show. One last bit of wisdom, by the way, to leave behind our audience and listeners. What would it be? Take us home.
Take you home. My last bit of wisdom is to just whatever your kids do, like support them, support their team. The best teams have the parents are just as part. Our slogan for our team this year is "We is greater than me," and I think that goes for the parents, that goes for the players. We're all better together. We're all better when we work together than when we try to do things by ourselves, or we look for individual accomplishments. So let's all get together and be greater than what we can be as a solo person.
We is better than me. Coach Greg,
We is
thank
greater
you
than me.
for that wonderful. We is greater than me. Fantastic. Coach Greg, I'm truly, truly happy to have you on here. That topic was great. I love that topic. I'm a sports enthusiast myself. I have been enjoying watching Olympics, as I'm sure you have as
Yes,
well.
yes.
And to all our audience, it's been great. It's been great, Coach. Our audience and listeners out there, if you guys just enjoy watching sports, I'm sure and the Olympics, I'm sure you enjoyed Coach Greg's episode today in this show. Thank you for watching. Coach Greg, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Josh, for reaching out to me and giving me an opportunity to share a message.
Fantastic. Of course, it's a great message, Coach Greg. And to all our audience listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you enjoyed the message. Thank you for watching the episode. Go enjoy your Olympics, and we will see you on the next one. Bye bye.
Thank you, Josh.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.